Chester.
Okay.
Now, you have done very, very many things in your career. Do you know how many acting credits you have on IMDb? Do you know the number that they have equated to you?
No, I don't. I know it's apparently
226 is what.
226.
Do you remember every one of them?
I remember every line, every one. No, well, I kind of like to work.
Yeah.
And I'm not always that particular. but if I read something and the part, looks like something I really want to get into, and the director's okay, and cast, why not? So, hence an accumulation of a lot of titles.
Yeah.
I remember that you could get this compendium that has all the movies up from beginning of time up to present, and there's a little paragraph summoning up the film. And they also had a little visual stamp right next to the title that sort of told you what kind of film it was. And I had 3 or 4 with turkeys stamped next to it. I'm not congratulating myself, I just find it amusing.
And do you have a particular project for you that is really close to your heart after all these years? Is there one for you that really stands out? Or are they kind of all like, it's
well,
like
actually, I did 2 films here in Niagara with a couple who worked together, producing, writing, and directing. April Yes.
Mullen. Oh, yeah.
April Mullen.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember both of them as films, very different films, that was, one of those things I read and I said, I got to do this. It's it got to me. And they were great, April Mullen and her partner, and family, so it was great working up here.
Great. And I know the fans, they love to revisit some of their favorite movies again and again, but if you're in your hotel room and you're flipping through the channels and you see a project that you've been in, do you stop, do you watch, or do you not like to kind of go back and look at that?
I kind of like to take a look. It's interesting in many ways, especially films that I did some years ago, to see where I was at then and where I feel I'm at the moment, and the people that I worked with and how we've changed and all those things I might have done differently if I was going to do it over again. So it's kind of, kind of fun seeing yourself up on the screen. Anyway, so yeah.
Now, a lot of people here, the biggest applause was for Back to the Future, right? Yes. I was wondering if you were to make another film, is there a time you'd want to go back to? Where do you think, if they were to do one more movie, what do you think we should have done?
Another Back to the Future?
Yeah. What do you think?
I don't know. I think somehow it needs to be kind of convey a message about something that's important to everyone, universally, like climate change, some way of incorporating whatever fever there's going on at the moment into the film and keep the feeling of the 1, 2, and 3. Mm-hmm. It's a tricky deal to because you don't want to do another one and disappoint. So it's, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'd be happy to for myself, but we'll see.
Now, with a film like that is, there are films like that are so big and there's so many fans, people start to talk and they hear things and rumors become facts and they end up on the internet and places. So I was wondering if you could confirm some of these things, if they're true or not, that I've discovered on the internet.
Well, I'm glad you're a good researcher.
Okay. So there is a rumor that they shot Back to the Future Part 3 before Part 2. Did that happen?
No. I don't think so. No. We did one, of course, okay. And there was a lapse of about 2 years, as I recall, before we went back to do 2 and 3 together. And there was some kind of stipulation that saying we're shooting 2, and the background, the location, and all of that, the makeup, whatever, is the same as a scene in exactly the same spot in 3. So you'd think, well, let's, tighten the budget up here a little bit. We do the 2 scenes together, one after another. Huh. But the stipulation is that you're not allowed to do that. So, hence, we did 2 and then took a short break and did 3.
Wow, okay. Apparently, you often had to hunch to hide the height difference between you and Michael J. Fox because you were so much taller than Michael J. Fox. You had to kind of hunch in some scenes to hide the height difference. Is that, do you remember that? Is that true?
Not really. Maybe for a moment, some instance. But when it was important that we show the height difference, they would put me on a block or Michael on a block, the director would look at it and say, okay, that works in this shot. And, but I don't remember doing this. And Michael wasn't doing this.
The film was originally called Spaceman from Pluto. Is that true?
That I don't know.
Before Back to the Future, Spaceman from Pluto, was that on any script or breakdown that you read?
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't ring a bell?
Doesn't come to mind, no.
Okay, everyone update the internet after this, okay?
I mean, I could be mistaken.
Okay. Apparently, the wind was so loud during the clock tower scene that the dialogue was all re-recorded later because the turbines were so loud. Is that true?
I don't know.
Was it a loud? Do you recall shooting the clock tower scene and all the wind? Would you remember it being a very loud moment?
Well, they had the wind going. I mean, it's possible, but I don't remember recalling that they had to do those scenes all over again. It might be kind of mixed. One line may come out and it's fine, and the next line may come out and there's problems, and they have to do it over again or whatever. Yeah, you go loop it, as they say.
All right. And
lip sync yourself.
Yeah. And lastly, you initially turned the role down. Is that true?
Excuse me?
Apparently, you said no, and then you were convinced later to play the part.
I'm sorry. I didn't know. Yeah, I came out from New York after One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest came out, which was my first film, and an agent called me from LA and said, if you come out, we'd like to, so it took me less than a New York minute to get myself out there. And anyway, I was I was doing, I diverged a little bit. I was doing, so I came out, and I had never wanted to go to Hollywood before because I knew hundreds come every year, thousands, I don't know. Unless you've got something that is solid that they want to see on a resume, kind of forget about it. So Cuckoo's Nest gave me a little leverage. And I went out there, and I was there for a while. And nothing was going on. And I had an offer to go back to New York. This was about a year or so later, more, maybe 2, I don't know. To go back to New York, where I had the theater going, and it was a very good offer for a play with some really wonderful people in it. I thought, that's where I ought to be. That's my roots, my theatrical home, so to speak. And it still is. I spent a lot of time there, not working and sort of working or whatever. So it means a lot to go back and work there. But I digress again. I hope that list isn't too long. So I decided I'm going to go back to New York and do that play. Nothing's going on here, and this I want to do. And then I was working on a film in Mexico City, I think. I got a script from my agent, Back to the Future, or Pluto.
Spaceman from Pluto.
Yeah. And I kind of just skimmed through it and literally dropped it in the wastepaper basket. And a friend of mine, not a great career move, but a friend of mine was there, and she said, in New York, anything that might possibly be appropriate for me, I'd go across town to Brooklyn, wherever I had to go to get there and show up and go for it. And so she reminded me of that. It was kind of a mantra for me. And I thought, she's got a point. So I picked it back up and went back to LA and had a meeting with Bob Zemeckis, and that was that.
Wow, that's a great story. Now, there are a lot of fans here today who have questions, so we do have an aisle mic right here. So if you have a question for Mr. Christopher Lloyd, you could line up, but maybe to avoid blocking everybody on that side, don't worry, I got your back. Can we line up that way, maybe along the front, just so we're not blocking too many people? That'd be great. Perfect. And if you are being blocked, there are still seats available over there, so you can relocate if you'd like. Okay. Can you reach the microphone? You got a question?
Uh-huh. How was it working with Andy Kaufman and Tony Clifton?
Well, I'll tell you, when before I came on the show, Taxi was running, and Andy was being Latka. And then the producers decided they wanted Tony Clifton to be in the show, Taxi, or to be a guest, something like that. So Andy went up to the office, sitting around with the suits, and they said, we'd, like you to do Tony Clifton on the show. And Andy said, That's a separate contract. And he literally, that's the stand he took. And they had to go through the whole procedure of calling his agent, sending contracts, getting them signed, co-signed. And that's, Andy had the convictions of his particular sense of humor. And he knew how to execute it and make it work. And there's some genius in that. Imaginative, daring. I remember once we were rehearsing for the evening performance of one of the Taxi episodes. And everybody's there in the rehearsal. And it's intense, because now it's the last minute to get everything just right. And we have a 10-minute break, and some sort of discussion about levitation had come up. And of course the things, and somehow it got to the point where Andy said, I can levitate. And he proceeded to get down on the floor of the stage in a lotus position and just, kind of went into a trance-like kind of thing. And we're standing around, standing around, seeing what this guy is doing. And he just stays there, And finally, a production manager says, breaks up, we got to go back to work. So, and he, gets up, we go back to work. And it felt like another 30 seconds, and he would have done it. Yeah, he and I went to a mud wrestling event where he wrestling women, and it was entertaining. Yeah, he was a good soul. Good soul.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks a lot, man. All right, go ahead. What is your question?
Yeah, Mr. Lloyd, it's funny that the young guy came up and touched on a subject that I wanted to talk about, and that was your Taxi experience with Andy Kaufman, because I watched a documentary on his lifestyle,
right,
and the different quirks, and in my mind with my buddies, we still cannot determine, was he a genius or a lunatic or something in between? And I would like you to expand on that if you could, just to resolve that for me.
Well, I don't think he was insane. He had very clear insights and knew how to bring them to life. And it was very rational, in his own world. and I know he did a lot of quirky things, but there was a method to his madness.
Okay. So I'm going out on a limb, say something in between.
Yeah.
And thank you for your impact.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Big fan, and I wanted to ask, I heard a rumor that you might do an episode of Rick and Morty.
Yes, I did some. I think I did like a promotional little scene or two.
Would you want to do an actual episode of the show?
I'm sorry?
Would you want to do an episode of the show?
Do I want to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks so much. All right.
Hi, Christopher. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm sure the fans are thrilled that you're here, so we appreciate you coming to Niagara Falls. A question for you is, looking back at your entire career, TV, movies, even like, say, if you were in a high school play, what was I guess, the most pivotal and most enjoyable role that you had as an actor?
Role?
Yeah. Out of your entire career.
What's coming to mind now, I did a play in New York that kind of really got me started, and it was such a crazy kind of thing. It was a play by an Austrian playwright, and it was called Kaspar. And Kaspar, in real life, there was a Kaspar, a young man who was sort of deposited on a doorstep to some professor in Munich or Berlin somewhere. And it was like he did not know anything about anything. He had no language. He didn't know what objects were, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I got a call for it. And when I read it, I thought, I don't know, I don't understand this at all. You know, it was just like, what is this? And then I kept reading it, and it was fabulous. Loved it. It was just a sort of, the character, as he's bombarded with words and things like that, to bring him intellectually aware of the world he's in. And he's eager to do it, but the truth becomes so overwhelming that it destroys him at the end. That's kind of a downer. But it's an incredible play, you know, aside from that, it just, you know, so
great.
That gave me a certain, you know, recognizability that started me doing more plays.
Took you to the very next level.
Huh?
Took you to the next level.
Yeah, thank you. Exactly.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Hello. Hi, Mr. Lloyd. I have a lot of questions to ask you, but I'll just ask you just one. I was wondering how it was like to work with Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner on Star Trek 3.
Nimoy and Shatner. What was it like?
On
The Search
Return
for
of Spock?
Yeah.
It was good. It was good. When I, you know, people knew that I was going to be working with William Shatner, they were like, good luck, you know. Like I'm going to be, you know. So we have this battle at the end on the cliff, and you know, he puts his boot through my face, and that's that. But it was good. You know. Two actors doing their thing.
And one of my favorite lines before your character dies, when you're holding William Shatner, you say, "Give me Genesis." The planet Genesis, you tell him, "Give me Genesis."
Yeah, I think that went over my head at the time.
Well, thank you. Thank you for answering my question. Thank you,
Great.
Mr. Lloyd.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Andrew, what's your question?
Mr. Lloyd, you have many, many acting credits. My personal favorite is Clue. I remember being 4 years old in my grandparents' living room, and my grandfather threw it on, and I watch it at least twice a year ever since. My question is, what was your favorite board game growing up, if it wasn't Clue, and would you like to see it adapted to a movie?
I'm sorry.
Favorite board game growing up?
My favorite war game?
Board game.
Board game.
Yeah.
I've kind of aged myself a little bit. Canasta. No, I guess Monopoly, checkers, and some chess, Jim Rummy. I'm going down.
And would you ever want to be in a movie of
Blackjack.
like Monopoly? Would you ever want to be in a movie version of Monopoly?
a movie
No.
version of Monopoly. Do you think it would work?
I'm sure it could. No, there's real potential there.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Thomas, and I was wondering what it was like to work with Eric Stoltz on Back to the Future before he was recast.
He was very good. You know, Eric Stoltz is a wonderful actor and has work out there, you know, to show for it. I had no sense whatsoever that he was going to be dropped for Michael J. Fox. I mean, we were shooting overnight shoots in the parking place where all the stuff happens, and at 1:00 a.m. would be dinner. So after dinner, they said everybody go gather around the whatever, and it was announced, and I was stunned, partially because it was early in the shoot, first 6 weeks, and I still wasn't, really sure what I was doing, and I was like every day was an audition, and I thought, oh my God, I got to do that over again, and I was like, that was my selfish point of view, but no, I think they were interested in Michael to do the role before their original thoughts were Michael, I believe, and he was all tied up with
Family Ties.
Family Ties, and then they went with Eric, and they did 6 weeks, and when they watched the footage every day when it was screened, they just came to the conclusion that they needed to have a certain comic sense, a certain kind of flair for the humor of it, in a way, and which Michael totally has. And so they said we got to do what we got to do, and they worked it out with Family Ties, and Michael was on. And the chemistry from day one never left working with him. So it's great.
Great. Awesome.
May I ask one more thing?
Yeah, sure.
And I'm sure you probably get this a lot, but would you be able to say "Great Scott" for me and the audience?
Great Scott!
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right. I feel like you should have to say it now to be even.
Great Scott!
Okay. All right, go ahead.
My question is also about Back to the Future. I know that you and Michael J. Fox had a lot of scenes together, so I was wondering what was it like to work with him, and are you two still friends to this day?
Working with Michael J. Fox, what was it like?
It was very easy. He was who he was, I was who I am, and there was never any odd, it wasn't ever awkward or anything. We knew how to be our characters with each other, and it was very comfortable. He has a great sense of humor and intelligence and act.
And have you've stayed in touch with Michael? You
Yes,
still do appearances together lately.
He does some of these sometimes. He did a couple earlier, a couple of months ago, and he's just so present, and his Parkinson's, he has it, but it's kind of so what? It just moves ahead. It's very cool. And when we have, like a couple of months ago, there was like a bunch of us, Back to the Future. Tom Wilson and Leah Thompson, the guy who played Kristen, no, not Kristen. No. Slacker. Who was that? Yeah, Biff was.
Yeah, James Tolkien, right? James Tolkien.
Yeah, we'd have a panel with all of us. And Michael just goes forth and talks, breaks people up, and just, so it's very cool. He did a episode, a guest episode with Larry David. Yeah, and Michael's got a scene with Larry, and Larry's telling him all kinds of, kind of yelling at him about something, and Michael's, he has an uncontrollable condition. He's moving around, and Larry just says something like, "We just stand still, Michael." And Michael said, "Larry, I have Parkinson's." And then later, there's another scene, and Larry asked Michael to go to the kitchen to get him a can of beer. And Michael comes back and gives the can of beer to Larry, and he goes, like that. And he goes, you did that on purpose. A word like that. And Michael says, "Larry, I have Parkinson's." So, have that kind of humor about himself and being upfront and clear about himself like that, it's just extraordinary. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, that's actually all the time we have, but if you want to meet Mr. Christopher Lloyd, he'll be out on the floor, and there are other things happening today, so make sure to stop and say hi. But give it up one more time for Christopher Lloyd, everybody. Thank you so much.